One change to my morning routine has been the single most impactful daily habit that I have recently added to my life. Grab your cup of tea and let's dive into it. I talked about this habit earlier this year when I was still just trying this out for the first time, but now I have done this consistently for a year now, and I find myself mentioning it to everyone that I am catching up with. It somehow just always finds its way into the conversation because it relates to something that people are talking about, which is why I wanted to highlight it again today. And that is this idea of morning pages. It's something that I heard people mention before I actually read the book where it originated from. Now, this comes from a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. And this is a book that has a cult following. A lot of big name celebrities absolutely love the ideas shared in this book. And the idea that Julia Cameron presents is that we are all creative in some way, whether we think we are or not. It is a part of our God-given nature. And we need to ideally nurture that creativeness that we have within us as well. And there are two key tools that she highlights as a part of this. For reference, not the one that I'll go into in detail today, but one of them is about this idea of artist dates. So it's about this idea of spending time with yourself and finding creative ways to, I guess, explore your curiosity and bring out that creativity that you might have within you. The one that has really resonated with me and that I've absolutely loved adding to my routine is the idea of morning pages. This idea is that every morning you handwrite 3 pages. So this is just meant to be a complete free flow of whatever thoughts come to your mind. It's not designed to be art. It's not designed to be writing either. It's just designed to be your thoughts on paper as they come to you. So this could be positive, negative, it could be colorful, it could be really bland, but the idea is that you are putting down your thought. You're writing in real time as these thoughts come to you instead of being overcome by what she describes as the censor. The censor is your logical brain. It is that part of your mind that is always wanting to keep you safe. It has that survival instinct that also holds you back from more exciting opportunities. And by writing ideas as they come to you without actually overthinking them, then you can overcome the censor through your morning pages. So that is a big part of the focus and the motivation behind the morning pages concept. And I actually have found this to be super interesting compared to the journaling that I used to do previously. I used to find myself sitting down, thinking about what I was going to journal. You know, everything had to some degree a topic or a theme. It would talk about, a feeling that I have about a certain situation. It would talk about, an event that happened. But it wasn't just this complete free flow of thoughts, which is what the morning pages is designed to be. I used to keep physical journals and I did really enjoy this. I think there's something really beautiful about sitting down and putting pen to paper and feeling, those textures between your fingers and in your hands. I think that is a really nice experience. But what I was finding was that I was investing in all of these beautiful journals. And sometimes when I was eventually able to get in the flow of journaling consistently, I would get to the end of my journal and then realize that I had to buy a new one. And because I like everything to, be really nice and, really care about the aesthetics of certain things, I would find myself then falling off the habit of journaling because I was waiting to purchase my new journal and I couldn't find the one that I wanted next, for example. And I also found that I was having to keep all of these journals too. And over time, that can physically take up a lot of space. So what I chose to do instead as a part of my own adaptation of morning pages was to focus on writing 1 digital page a day. So that is what I do as a part of my morning routine. It is one of the very first things that I do when I wake up in the morning, and that is a key part of this as well. It's to tap into that mind frame that you have when you are just coming out of sleep as well, and tapping into all of that creative potential that you have a part of that too. Which leads nicely into my second point about what I have found has worked worked really well with morning pages, and that is this idea of what I call mini visualizations. In neurolinguistics programming, for example, it promotes that the mind can't differentiate between what is real and what is vividly imagined. So detailed visualizations for desired outcomes becomes a form of mental rehearsal. As I've mentioned on this channel, this is what athletes do, this is what salespeople do. The best high performers in the world understand the value of visualization. And the idea behind morning pages is that there aren't any set rules. You don't have to follow these rigid prompts, which can often be what the journals that are out in the marketplace now encourage you to do. They are really structured. The idea of morning pages is that you are literally looking at a blank page when you start and you are seeing what comes to you. But what I have found has naturally ingrained itself into my morning pages every day has become this routine of visualizing my day in advance, describing it in detail as to how I see it going, not just what I have on, but the outcomes that I expect from that. So your morning pages can be a way that you can design your ultimate day. For example, how do you see that meeting going? What time will you finish that project? How will it go? I've really enjoyed this idea of being as specific as possible, and this really relates to the visualization aspect of visualizing in detail. This is what is going to help your mental rehearsal of your desired outcomes. Which leads to my point about rewriting your day in advance. A lot of what I'm describing relates to a concept called scripting, which is psychology meets neuroscience meets metaphysics in how you are actually bringing about your desired outcome. So you are scripting in either the past tense or the present tense. You are writing as though you have already achieved that thing. You are setting in motion that is already a reality. Because remember that your brain can't distinguish between what is vividly imagined and reality. So when you are scripting in a way that you have already achieved that thing, you are almost tricking your brain into putting that desired outcome into motion. And finally, one of the other elements that I love, which has naturally evolved as a part of my morning routine, is that it has become an ingrained gratitude practice. Now, I'm sure you've heard about the idea of writing down 3 things that you are grateful for and the benefits related to this. And this is something that I actually practiced for quite a long time as well. I actually had several journals, just mini journals, that were dedicated to writing down the 3 things that I was grateful for. And then again, similar to my other journals, they just built up and I didn't know what to do with all of these journals. I didn't want to keep buying them. I didn't want to keep storing them. And I would find myself again waiting to buy my next one and then dropping off of the habit. But what I have found is that my morning pages has become just this one-stop shop for visualization, for gratitude, for thinking about how I am planning my ultimate days. It has become a place that I can do all of that. And naturally, even without me trying or without me setting any rigid prompts, it started to evolve in being about gratitude. I personally like to look back. If it's what I feel like, I always like to go with what I feel like. But I will most often look back on the day that has just been and think about not just 3 things, but everything that I was grateful for as a part of that. And because you are thinking so quickly and you're writing so quickly, you'll probably find that there are more things than maybe just the 3 things that you would normally think of, or maybe things will surprise you as a part of that list. And then I also find myself practicing gratitude in advance, which is something that I have heard people talk about as well. So this also relates back to the scripting concept, where it is that instead of you being grateful for things that have happened, you're being grateful in advance. You're celebrating in advance as though it has already happened, which I also really like doing as a part of my morning pages. So that's where that visualization of the day or the week or, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in the long term comes into play as a part of that as well. This idea of a gratitude journal was something that was really popularized in Sean Achor's book, The Happiness Advantage, where he proposes that happiness doesn't come from success, your success comes from happiness, and that there has been research that shows that if you are happy, you increase your productivity and your successful outcomes, as opposed to them being the driver of your happiness. And the idea of gratitude is also linked to something that is called the Tetris effect, which I believe this was based on an experiment around participants that had to engage in the game of Tetris. And what they found was when people are exposed to a long period of an activity like that, was that they start to see that thing everywhere. So if you can imagine, for example, you're playing Tetris for hours and hours, and then you go into the supermarket and you're walking down the aisles and you start to visualize the aisles and what you're seeing as being Tetris blocks, for example, and how they all can piece together. So the idea of constant gratitude practice is that you start to see that thing everywhere. If you're constantly thinking about gratitude, then you start to notice gratitude in the things that you might not have otherwise. And that is what I love about Morning Pages, is that without having to have all of the additional journals, I have been able to really just take this gratitude practice to the next level as well, as part of this simple one page that incorporates so many of the things that we often get recommended to do but might struggle to find the time for. And this practice takes me roughly between 15 to 20 minutes every morning, and I was doing it every single day. Now I do it just every weekday, so I give myself a little bit of a break on the weekend, not because I don't love it, but just because I like to not be so structured on the weekend as much as I used to be. But it has been my number one favorite addition to my habits. And if you follow this channel, you would know how much I absolutely love to talk about daily habits and what I think is working for me, and some of the research and the science behind this as well. So if you are interested in similar topics, then check out my previous episodes on high value habits or high value hobbies as well. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.